Full Service Radio is proudly supported and hosted by Simplecast, the easiest way for a podcast creator to publish and distribute audio on the internet. For more information, visit simplecast.com. Recorded live from the lobby of the Line Hotel in Adams Morgan, Washington, D.C.
Welcome to Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of Black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. We are exercising caution and social distancing by recording for you from our homes in DC and Philly. And this podcast is brought to you by Full Service Radio. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise listeners to use caution when listening. Black Girl Missing is supported in part by New Voices for Reproductive Justice. New Voices for Reproductive Justice is a social change organization dedicated to the health and well-being of Black women, femmes, and girls. I am Feminista Jones.
I am Nikki.
And Asa is off this week, and that's okay. She'll be back. Sometimes we have to take time off. I may take a week off. You may take a week off. It happens.
Absolutely.
That's why it's great that we have three of us. How are you doing today? How's this week going for you?
This has been kind of a stressful week for me. I got some personal, emotional stuff going on, but I will push through. I have all the things I need. I'm comfortable. My apartment is mine and it's comfy. I got new sneakers this week. That's always a plus.
Yes. No, we're here for that. We're here for the retail therapy. I think everybody's doing that, and that's okay. That's okay. We're going to push through, as you said.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into this episode. So we open each show reviewing cases of girls who are currently missing that we call the Aisha Alert. We encourage you to pay close attention, check our social media, and help us help the families who are still seeking answers and long for their loved one's safe return. We'd like to note that we create these lists of currently missing Black girls in real time, so by the time the podcast episodes are released, there may have been changes. We will have information on each case posted on our social media channels so that you can stay updated. Two sisters have gone missing in Newport News, Virginia. They were last seen together on April 10th, 2020. Sanaya Bethea is 16 years old, 5 foot 6 inches tall, and she weighs about 95 pounds. She is Black and she has brown hair and eyes. Jania Bethea is 15 years old. She's 5'3" and she weighs approximately 110 pounds. She has brown skin and Black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about these girls' whereabouts is asked to call the Newport News Police Department at 757-247-2500. Dejaya Ortiz of 2100 Manton Street in Philadelphia was last seen on Wednesday, December 24th at 7:30 a.m. when she went to attend school at Universal Audenried Charter School. Police say that she did not attend school and never returned home. She's been described by police as being 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighing about 155 pounds, with medium brown complexion, brown eyes, and Black hair. She was last seen wearing a light blue uniform shirt, tan pants, and brown boots. Anyone with any information on Jajaya Ortiz's whereabouts is asked to contact the South Detective Division at 215-686-3013 or to simply call 911. Tiani Bundy has been missing since January 30th, 2020. She is from Mount Holly, New Jersey, and is 16 years old. She's described as being 5'3", 237 pounds, with black hair, brown skin, and brown eyes. If you have any information about her whereabouts, please contact East Hampton Township Police at 609-267-8300. And I just wanted to make one point. Thinking about this social distancing and the coronavirus and COVID and all these girls that are missing, what's going on with them, right? Like if they're still alive, I'm really concerned about all these kids that are missing during this pandemic. And that's something that I just wanted to bring up for this episode, that we keep them in our thoughts and we keep their families in our thoughts, because they're somewhere, and, who knows what's happening with them.
Right, absolutely.
All right, Nikki, take it away.
All righty. Today we are going to talk about Alexis Patterson. Alexis went missing from Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Friday, May 3rd, 2002, and she was 7 years old at the time. Alexis lived with her mother and her stepfather, Ayanna and Laurent Bourgeois, Laurent would walk her to school every day since they lived right down the street. And at the time of her disappearance, Alexis was described as being a Black female with black hair, brown eyes. She was about 4 feet tall and weighed 42 pounds. Now, she had a scar below her right eye, a bump on her left pinky finger. Her primary and secondary teeth were crowded. Her gums were darker in color, and she had her ears pierced, and she was right-handed. She was last seen wearing a hooded red pullover nylon jacket with a gray stripe running down each sleeve, a light purple blouse or a blue shirt with horizontal stripes, light blue jeans, white high-top Nike sneakers, and clustered diamond sunflower-shaped earrings with yellow gold posts. Her hair was styled in 2 French braids, which were pulled back into a ponytail, and she was carrying a pink Barbie book bag. Now, everything that I just said is very relevant to what we spoke about on a previous episode about the amount of detail. That was a very detailed description of Alexis when she went missing. Having a description like that be so precise, if you see a child that fits that description, you have a lot to go off of.
Absolutely.
Is she wearing a red jacket? Check. Is she wearing light blue jeans? Check. Is she wearing high top sneakers? Check. Check those earrings. They match. And it's easier to find a missing child when you have that amount of detail. Alexis Patterson's story was a little unique because there was a lot of news coverage from local news sources. I used to live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Alexis's family and my family are familiar with each other. And so this was a story that was kind of close to me. It was really sad because there was no trace, really. There was a lot of questions, few answers. So as I get into this, there's going to be some twists and some turns that are a little bit unexpected, and some details that were kind of left out of the news quite a bit. So let's get into it.
All right. And I was going to say that I appreciated your, the details. I was going to comment. I was like, that's a lot of details. I wish, excuse me. I don't know what's going on with me today, but I wish that we could get more of that.
Yeah.
Like, even as we do our Aisha alerts and we're trying to find information, it's like, it's hard because we don't have that much detail. So I was really thinking about that. All right, let's get into it. Let's go.
So on the day that Alexis went missing, Laurent walked her to Highmount Boulevard School, which is on the corner of 49th Street and Garfield. Alexis and her family lived on 49th Street. So she literally just had to walk right across the street with her stepdad and head to the playground, and that would be that. She was in the 1st grade, and he dropped her off around 8 a.m. Now, Laurent says that he watched Alexis walk towards the playground before he headed back to their residence. However, Alexis never attended class during the day. She was completely left off of the attendance sheet, although students reported seeing her crying on the playground both before and after school.
So when you say that she was left off of the attendance sheet, she wasn't checked in, or her name just wasn't on the list?
No, her name was on the list.
Okay.
So, when the teacher says, we're going to do attendance, her name wasn't checked off. So the teachers never saw her, but the kids said that they did. But the point to that is she was in the 1st grade. A lot of 6, 7, and 8-year-olds don't have the best short-term memory with stuff like that.
Right.
They're not the best historians. So if you say, "Did you see Alexis today?" Yeah.
Yeah, and it may have been from yesterday.
Are you sure? Yeah. Or maybe not. They don't know. They don't know. So they can't really be always trusted to be a solid source. But it matters that they did at least say, yeah, I saw her and she was crying. The fact that they said that they saw her crying is significant.
Yeah.
Ayana and LaRon were actually not notified about Alexis's absence until after the school day.
Okay, that's weird.
Right?
Yeah, if my son doesn't in school by like 11 o'clock, I'm getting a phone call.
Right. Because they want to know, is this an excused absence? Is he at the doctor? Like, what's going on?
And then I get on his dad, like, why didn't you call the school?
Right.
So that's weird.
So at the time, Milwaukee Public Schools policy was to notify parents of a child's absence after the second consecutive unexcused absence. That, personally, I feel like that's a terrible policy to have.
I agree.
Because after 2 unexcused consecutive absences, that's 48 hours. That's 2 days, So this policy was actually criticized by the community because a lot of people weren't aware that was the actual policy.
Wow.
So it was criticized by the community, but it was staunchly defended by their then superintendent, Spence Corte. Now, Spence Corte was the principal of Highmount for about 14 years before becoming superintendent in 1999. But between the criticism he received after Alexis's disappearance and some school board infighting, he actually resigned that same summer. He just couldn't take heat, and people kept judging him, and they had commentary about how he ran the school district, the school system there. And local officials initially believed Alexis had refused to attend class because of an argument that she had with her mother over not being able to bring cupcakes to class because she didn't do her homework the night before. Well,
she's 7.
7-year-olds can be a bit ridiculous, but that sounds far-fetched to me.
Yeah.
I know a lot of first graders, and first graders generally aren't that independent to say, I'm not going to school. That's just not something that they're.
Yeah. They may put up a fuss, but they're going to go.
And they might cry on the playground, but they're not going to just not show up to class. So also it makes sense to point out that Alexis did not have a history of ever running away. She never did any pack up a knapsack and go sort of thing. She had a perfect attendance record, and that tends to be important to kids.
Yeah.
I had perfect.
They want that pencil.
I want my purple perfect attendance pencil.
Yeah.
So she had perfect attendance, and she was a good student, and she liked school. Now, the surrounding areas around Milwaukee were searched immediately after she was reported missing. And investigators canvassed the nearby Washington Park, which is a very large park, and it actually used to serve as Milwaukee's zoo. So that can kind of give you an idea of how large that park is. It has a lagoon in the middle of it that is fairly deep, and divers actually searched that area also. Authorities focused on areas near Meineke Avenue, which can be a high crime area, Vine Street, 16th Street, which has a viaduct that you can go under, and 60th Street in the northwest section of the city. But they found no evidence to point where she could be. Just completely gone, no trace, no nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Do they have dogs searching and stuff like that? I'm assuming they had dogs out.
They had dogs. They had people. They had folks. They had the what do you call it? The horses. They had horses. Their police. Police force there has horses. They had horses searching for her. They had dogs. They had divers. And a week after Alexis went missing, and the police were getting nowhere, there was a local group of volunteers that called themselves LAP, Locate Alexis Patterson. And they joined in on the search. They were funded by volunteers. They weren't, like an organized nonprofit or anything. They just were a group of concerned individuals. And they searched through abandoned garages, garbage bins, dumpsters, just no stone left unturned. So they really did try looking for her. And we've talked about this in previous shows about people not spreading out and actually looking for someone. They actually tried with Alexis.
And that first 48 was tough because they lost 48 hours of searching. And those are such critical hours because the school didn't report anything.
Right. So all that time, there's a really good opportunity for you to get pretty far away from where you are if that's the goal.
I have a quick question, though,
Yes.
and maybe you touch on this later. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, well, the school reported after the second day of her missing.
Yeah.
What happened the first day when she didn't come home? What'd her mama do?
Well, no, they reported her missing.
Okay.
And then the school was like, well, yeah, she wasn't here yesterday. Well, why didn't you tell me then?
Okay. Because I was a little confused there.
Sorry.
No, that could be me. Because, I didn't have coffee because it's been a couple of days and nobody's serving coffee anymore. Right. So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on this.
So her mother initially is thinking, my kid didn't come home from school.
Right. Okay.
But then the school was like, well, no, because she didn't even come to class. So
but they waited until the second day.
For 7 whole hours before y'all even said anything. Wow, and I think one of the important parts, if my child is missing, Milwaukee is situated right in between 3 major interstates. Mm-hmm. It's nothing for her to go north. They could make it all the way to Canada in 8 hours.
Wow.
So if you're missing for the whole school day, that's 7 hours. You could be all the way in Canada by now.
Over the border, yeah.
You could be in other places you can get in the same amount of time. She could be in Detroit already. She could be in Cleveland. She could be in Minneapolis. Like, these are all places that she could get to in 8 hours or less.
Wow.
If you're not telling me right away, if you don't call me by 10, 11 o'clock and tell me my kid didn't come to school and she's not going but across the street and her stepdad walked her over there, that is, I think, what was so concerning to me. So this group, Locate Alexis Patterson, they are canvassing the entire area. They are going out with their own resources and making sure that they can look everywhere that they can, abandoned buildings, abandoned homes, etc. They laminated badges with Alexis's photo and information on it and passed them out to people so that they could say, if you see her, this is exactly who you call. Now, on May 14th, or by May 14th, 2002, investigators announced that they felt Alexis disappeared under suspicious circumstances and reclassified her case from a missing child to a criminal investigation.
Okay.
Alexis's case, which doesn't always happen with Black girls.
Right.
Now, Alexis's case soon got national attention and it was featured on America's Most Wanted. Now her face is on billboards because back in the early 2000s, that's when America's Most Wanted would put your face on a billboard. And it would say, so-and-so is missing, and it would give you their statistics and all of that. And people knew she didn't get the same coverage as the disappearance of Elizabeth Smart. Elizabeth Smart went missing about a month after Alexis.
Wow.
But people remember her name. They remember Elizabeth Smart.
Elizabeth Smart got movies, books.
Yes. You turn on
everything.
Lifetime, there's like 3 Elizabeth Smart films.
Jeez.
Reporters in Milwaukee who covered Alexis's case actually pointed that out. And they counted 67 newspaper and magazine articles written mainly by them since Alexis had gone missing versus the 400 stories that they found written about Elizabeth within 10 days of her disappearance. That is wild.
Okay. That's like 8 times more.
That is so significant.
That is like 7 or 8 times more stories.
Yeah.
I'm not good with math, but that's a hell of a lot more stories.
It is.
For the missing white girl.
Here is where the story gets a little more muddy.
Uh-oh.
Some of Alexis's classmates told police that they had seen a red truck parked outside the school for most of the week before her disappearance. The truck never dropped anyone off, never picked anyone up, and it disappeared after Alexis vanished, and that truck never came back. That could have meant nothing.
Wow.
That could have meant something. But that truck has never been identified, and it is unknown if it's connected to her case. For children to notice a strange truck and for adults to do nothing about that bothers me. Because when kids talk to us, we need to listen.
Absolutely. Where that truck at? That truck probably got painted over.
Yep.
By the end of the day, changed the license plates, and never going to be seen again.
And really, it would have only taken a half an hour to say, Miss So-and-so, that truck been sitting outside for a long time. Okay, well, hang on. Let me go check it out. You call the police. Police come, investigate said truck. Mm-hmm. Boom, crisis averted. But no, they didn't listen to the kids. So this is also concerning. 2 weeks before Alexis's disappearance, there was a letter sent home to the High Mount parents to inform them of an attempted abduction of a little boy in the area.
Okay. See.
Yeah.
This is the part that gets me.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Sorry. Just
1 week before Alexis disappeared, she was seen talking to an unidentified woman in the back of the school building. And 2 days, wait a minute. 2 days after that, she was seen talking to the same woman again, but no one could identify her as a parent or a staff member. Nobody knew who this lady was. Ayanna was notified. Alexis's mom was notified, and she said that she lectured Alexis extensively after both of these incidents about the importance of not speaking to strangers. She said she just kind of drilled it into her. Like, when you see somebody you don't know, you walk away from them, go to somebody that you do know. And she said she became terrified, but she didn't have the privilege to not go to work. She had to go to work.
yeah.
So
I was thinking about that. Like, what happened after? Like, obviously, somebody saw Alexis talking to this woman. Was that a teacher? Was it students or something? Like, that somebody had to tell her mom or whatever.
Right.
What did the school do? Like, I can't
Nothing.
put this on her mama.
No.
I got to put this on the school. Like, say, hey, there's this woman lurking around talking to students. Maybe we should put some security out there.
Especially a week after there was an attempted abduction.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. So it makes me sigh a lot, and it makes me say 4-letter words. So Alexis's biological father, Kenya Campbell, was actually in jail at the time of her disappearance. He was released shortly afterward, and he cooperated with authorities fully, as did Ayanna and LaRon. Now, Alexis's stepfather also has a criminal history. And after putting a lot of focus on him as the main suspect, investigators felt that they didn't believe either he or Kenya Campbell's past were connected to her case. However, I think that it is important to point out that sometimes, and I'm not saying that LaRon or Kenya are at any fault here, I don't know. But sometimes when a child goes missing, they are literally being used as a piece of a puzzle in organized crime.
Yeah.
LaRon and Kenya both had multiple cases involving drug trafficking. LaRon's drug trafficking of choice is heroin, and Kenya's was cocaine and marijuana.
Wow.
So that led a lot of people to wonder, did this have something to do with the dirty drug deal?
Yeah.
Did it have something to do with some sort of, criminal situation that one or both of them may have been involved in? And they said, well, I'm going to take your daughter.
Do they know each other?
Just over being her parent, okay. But they're not friends or anything. Okay. So
they were thinking that somebody could have picked up the girl,
right,
as a get back or a ransom or something like that. Okay.
Right. So put a pin in that.
Okay, we're gonna put a pin in that one.
Put a pin in that because something's gonna come up a little later.
Oh hell!
Now, in 2003, a year after Alexis vanished, LaRon failed a polygraph test related to what he may know about Alexis's disappearance, and soon after was charged with an unrelated crime, which was again more drug trafficking. He was later charged for a domestic dispute with Ayanna, who had been trying to leave him for quite a while, and he was ordered to stay away from her. Ayanna accused LaRon of being unsupportive in the search for Alexis. She accused him of selling drugs, and she accused him of pimping women.
Okay. So you know where my mind goes.
Exactly where my mind goes. Go ahead.
Did he sell that girl?
Did he sell that girl? Throughout the time that I lived in Milwaukee, there was often a question of, did he sell her?
Oh, man.
And nobody could ever prove it. It's very hard to prove that type of stuff.
It is.
And
especially because she's so young, and you know that her features are going to change over time.
Right.
So even if somebody were to identify her at 17, still be in traffic, they wouldn't know that was the same girl based on what they thought.
Exactly. And
probably change her name and everything.
You can't really predict what a girl, when a little girl is, prepubescent, you can't really predict what she'll look like post puberty.
Right.
So even though her face looks a certain way, like, okay, take me for example. I look exactly the same that I did when I was 6 in the
You
face.
certainly do. Mm-hmm. You haven't changed.
I look exactly the same. However, from the neck down, you could have never predicted what I would look like.
Right.
So you might look at my face and go, yeah, that's her. But if you didn't get a good look at my face, or if I have heavy makeup on, or if I have, a different hairstyle that doesn't really fit what my hair generally looks like, people aren't going to look at me and put me to that missing poster.
Right.
That's not what's going to happen. So as time kind of, moves on, Ayanna and LaRon are now having issues, and it's interfering with Ayanna's ability to focus on her daughter's disappearance. Ayanna described LaRon as abusive. She said that he would threaten her. And the criminal charges were later dropped, but they have since separated. They divorced in 2004, and they've both actually moved away from the Milwaukee area. But in 2019, which was all of last year, LaRon posted a video to YouTube, and it was sort of like diary style or conversational. So it was a very casually posted video, seemingly supporting Ayanna's statements about his lifestyle. He made some.
So this is 15 years later.
It was a very damning video, and it's still up there. It only has 40 views.
Well, yeah, I'm about to be 41. Let me write that down.
And so the video on YouTube, he's essentially talking for about 10 minutes, and a lot of it is incoherent. He sounds like he may be intoxicated or high or something. And he's kind of talking about how men, should have multiple women and make those.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Have multiple women, have those women work for them, make them earn their keep. He sounds like a pimp.
He's a hoteppy pimp.
He sounds like, yeah.
Oh, man. Is his hair slicked back?
It's not. He talks a lot about a man's place, what a man's place is, what men are supposed to do, what men aren't supposed to do. Like, he sounds very manipulative, and he sounds like he's just proving Ayanna right. He doesn't say anything about Alexis or Ayanna, but the things that he's talking about in this video, they sound very much like what she was accusing him of.
Okay. Yeah. So he hasn't changed.
Right, correct.
In all this time.
So back in September 2002, a few months after Alexis went missing, investigators announced that foul play was suspected. And even though they later said, well, maybe it's not, Ayanna believes that her daughter is alive, and she has been very persistent in her search for her. She's been so persistent that she has been on The View, Find Our Missing, The Maury Show, Ricky Lake, Crime Watch Daily, America's Most Wanted, and In Pursuit. She's been on local news stations several times over the last, 17 years to talk about Alexis's disappearance, how she feels, what she thinks, what she's been doing. And where the story really got kind of strange was, so law enforcement took their search out of state, obviously. They went to Ohio, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, all the surrounding states, all around the Great Lakes. And most recently, in 2016, a man came forward and said that he thought his ex-wife might be Alexis Patterson.
What?
That sounds like such a weird thing to say.
What?
But so he said, he met this woman, and their relationship was kind of like whirlwind, kind of fast. They got married quickly. They had a kid. And he essentially said that when they got a divorce, part of it was because she had this murky past, and there was a lot of secrets with her, and he didn't really, they couldn't connect like they should have been able to, because she had a lot of secrets. And the woman said that she didn't remember her childhood prior to 10 years old. So,
whoa.
Right. So supposedly this woman is 8 years older than Alexis would have been. But if you don't remember your childhood before you're 10 years old, that's
How do you know
only
how old you are?
That's only 2 years off of how old Alexis would be.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know? So the woman,
That is so weird.
it is very odd. She has a passport and a green card stating that she was born in Belize. But he said she looked a lot younger than what she was. And she has 2 children. So essentially, if she is, like, right now, Alexis would be 25. When this whole thing went down, it was 2016. So that's 4 years ago. So at the time, Alexis would have been 21 with 2 children.
Okay.
And the thought is, well, if she's got these 2 kids, she had them when she was 14 or 15. While that is unlikely, it's not impossible.
Of course not.
You absolutely.
We just did a show with someone who was 14 and was thought to be pregnant.
Yep.
It's not impossible.
You can absolutely, be a mom at 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
So, and the guy was saying, when he married her, that she seemed kind of like immature, and he thought maybe it was because of where she grew up. Maybe she's not as mature or fast paced as people in America. Okay, fine. I can understand his concern. So he kind of pressed Ayanna out. He reached out to Ayanna, wanted to meet her, wanted his son to meet her, and was like, I think that you're his grandmother. And Ayanna really does believe that this woman is her daughter. However, the FBI went to Ohio, got a DNA sample from this woman, and tested it with DNA from Alexis's toothbrush from 2002. They said that it came back as not being a match, but Ayanna doesn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And she believes that there may be something a little bit larger happening, like somebody dropped the ball and now they're trying to cover it up. As crazy as that sounds, it's actually not far-fetched. We have seen this happen. We've seen law enforcement officials drop the ball before. We have seen them make mistakes and try to cover them up because it's embarrassing, or there's going to be some sort of backlash because they made a mistake. It happens. It really does. It does. And Ayanna felt like the FBI should have gotten fresh DNA. Like, she said, I'm here. Take DNA from me.
Yeah.
She said that could be compromised. It could be incorrect. It's been sitting in a warehouse for X amount of years. You don't know how good it is or how accurate it is. Try it again.
Yeah, 14 years. That's a
long time. Yeah. So she really...
And they didn't take any from her at all?
Nope.
Oh, man, that's kind of stupid.
She found out the results of that test by watching the news. Nobody even reached out and talked to her. She has been very firm on her disagreement of the findings, and she has expressed her displeasure with local news outlets for kind of cutting her out of that process. Mm-hmm. And as of 2020, Alexis Patterson's disappearance remains unsolved, but it's considered a cold case because they've never found any evidence of her not being alive. And
because there's no body, there's nothing. There's
no nothing. No, they haven't even found no human remains, no scent of blood, no nothing. They found nothing of hers that would lead them to believe.
This is so weird. Because if we go back to what you were saying about how close they lived to the school, how she got walked every day. So that means that, most schools, they have like administrators greetings. So people are used to seeing who drops you off and stuff. So they see that, right? Mm-hmm. They did not mark her present, but that doesn't mean that LaRon didn't drop her off, because there's still like a window of time between dropping them off and then they get to the classroom and they get attendance.
Right.
That's not to say that he didn't drop her off. Mm-hmm. And if there was some woman that she'd been talking to lurking around, I know that when I used to take my son to school in the morning, like when he was in his lower school, the kids would hang out in the playground for a little bit and just play around before they opened the doors if we got there early, because I had to be to work. And so he would go and his friends would be there, and I felt comfortable leaving him there because there was usually like a teacher or something around
Right.
that would keep their eye on the kids. It was gated or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in a situation, I could easily see how somebody could come in and swoop
Mm-hmm.
and take one of the kids,
Yep.
right? And if she had been talking to someone, then maybe that woman was kind of scouting her for something
Right.
or plotting something,
Right.
you know? And so I'm really concerned about that. But then if LaRon was involved, could he have done a handoff of some sort?
Yes, he could have.
Right?
He could
You
have.
know, and maybe the woman was talking to her to get her a little more familiar. Maybe they planned it. There's so many things that could have happened with this case. Like my mind is just spinning.
Yeah.
We just know that she left the house,
Yep.
was escorted by LaRon. Kids are saying they may have seen her crying, but there's no attendance marked.
Right.
And then she didn't go to school for 2 days.
Right. So I'm also concerned with what type of childhood she had prior to going missing. When you are around adults that are committing so many crimes, I understand that sometimes in our communities, you kind of have to do the best you can with what you got. Sometimes that means we hustle, and sometimes that means we sell drugs. Is it best? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. But her dad and her stepdad both have long rap sheets of selling a lot of hard drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Selling heroin, selling cocaine, like that's a grimy business.
Yeah.
And the energy in Milwaukee when it comes to crime and drugs is, it used to be a booming manufacturing city. And around that time is when those industries really started breaking down. Harley Davidson started leaving, Allen Bradley started leaving, A.O. Smith started leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people who had opportunities there didn't have them anymore. And it really just increased the crime. It increased how people were living when it came to using crime in order to supplement their incomes. Now, a lot of people remember Sheriff David Clark for being an absolute quack on television. And my opinions do not reflect those of full service radio. But
They reflect mine.
Sheriff David Clark used to be the sheriff in Milwaukee for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of had it out for Laurent Bourgeois. He would get on television and say with his chest, that man did something to that girl. Which, one, you can't actually do that. You can't say that. You can't. He could have sued him for that. And maybe he doesn't know that he could have, but you can't do that. But also, he really felt in his heart of hearts that LaRon had something to do with Alexis's disappearance. And I can't say that I disagree with him.
Right. I'm leaning towards him. I don't know, something in my spirit.
I don't want to agree with David Clark because it's David Clark. But there's something about LaRon that rubs me the wrong way. But also, Kenya isn't really much better. Kenya has a slew of drug charges, but he also has quite a bit of domestic violence charges. Okay. And back in 2013, he had an 8-month-old daughter who he beat so severely that she almost died. And he is now serving an 18-year sentence and is ordered to stay away from his daughter for the rest of her life.
That is horrifying. So what if something happened with him in jail with some jail gangs and somebody connected on the outside and had that girl snatched up somewhere and killed and buried or something?
It made me wonder because before that, like before she disappeared, he had a hefty record. And it's just because these are the things you got caught with doesn't mean that these are the only things that you do.
Right.
And like Kenya Campbell he has a small stature. He's he's short, very thin. He looks very harmless. But he had been charged at that time over 10 times with battery, felony battery. He has like 4 felony convictions, all drug related. And when he beat his child, she was 8 months old. She doesn't have complete control of the left side of her body. It was that bad.
Oh gosh.
She'll be in physical therapy until she is a teenager. It was
That is
pretty awful.
horrifying.
Yeah.
Ugh, ugh. I get tired of it because there's just too many of these stories of, too many Black men that are abusive towards Black women and children.
Yeah.
And it's just, it gets so overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is not we're going to bash Black men kind of thing, but we have to be honest about the fact that Black women are 3 times more likely than white women to be killed by an intimate partner.
Yeah.
We know that child abuse is disproportionate within our communities. It starts earlier and it is harsher. This has been studied.
Yeah.
We know that with domestic violence, so many women are afraid to leave because of the threats of what could possibly happen to their children. As you said, she had been trying to leave him for a long time. How do we know that he didn't do something to her, to Alexis, to punish her for trying to leave or something like that? There's so many things that could have happened. Unfortunately, Ayanna was involved with 2 violent men who are on the wrong side of the law and, got caught up in a situation, and we don't know what happened, but, I don't know. My spirit says that they could be involved, but we don't know. We don't know. And we don't want to go on this show and kind of be judge and jury or what have you. All we know that Alexis she's still missing. She's never been found. Case has never been solved. And it's just a really, really messed up story.
Hopefully she turns up and, remembers her childhood and can reunite with her mother, because Ayanna is very vocal about thinking about her daughter. She throws a birthday party for her every year. She misses her. She loves her. She has other children and she talks to her other children about Alexis's memory all the time. So hopefully a happy ending comes out of this soon.
Yeah, let's hope for that and for that family to have some reconciliation. Thank you for sharing that. That was really intense. Black Girl Missing podcast is researched, written, and produced by us. It is a labor of love by 3 concerned Black women who just want justice for missing Black girls. Today's episode was written by Nikki Irene and produced by the Full Service Radio team. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and be sure to follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are BLK Girl Missing. At Facebook, we are Black Girl Missing Pod. And on Instagram, we are Black Girl Missing Podcast. You can visit our website for more information about each case, blackgirlmissingpod.com, or you can email us at blackgirlmissingpodcast@gmail.com with any tips, feedback, or names of girls you want us to look into. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
See you.